Okay, well, good morning, everybody. This is Jim Collins, Excelsior Capital Partners, the Rising Series podcast. With me today is Roger Hamilton from GNS Group, and I won't take up too much of his time, but I would love it if Roger could just give us a very, very brief 10,000-foot overview of how a potential customer, which is me, for instance. I am an entrepreneur. I have two companies, would sign up for and use, and then obviously pay for the products that GNS Group is offering. So sorry for the long preamble, but Roger, please take it away.
Thank you, Jim, and thanks for having me on. So we are an edtech company, very focused at entrepreneurship and AI. So if I happen to be someone like yourself, Jim, there's two different ways that you would come into the GNS Group ecosystem. There's the high tech, there's the high touch. The high tech is where you heard from a friend, hey, there's a way that you can have all the entrepreneurial support and training for you to be able to scale your business. You can do it in a very AI-driven way. They'll give you a website called gnusu.com, which allows you to then go straight to that website and basically start your journey. Or they may give you one of our assessments. So we have the what is called the Genius test. We have the passion test, the purpose test. We also have something called talent dynamics. These are all different assessments which show you what are your strengths, what are your passions, what are your purpose, what do you want to do in life. And so you might be coming through one of those as well. That's where most of our advertising and social media and our partners are directing people. And what will happen is when you go into that pathway, we have a freemium model where the first thing is just for free. You're finding out things about yourself. Oh, I had no idea that because this is my strength, where I basically should be building my team is different from where I'm thinking about it right now. Wow, if I was to double, the amount of time I'm spending on my passions, I'd be a whole lot happier today than I am right now dealing with the emails that I have. It gives people insights into their own self-awareness and where they're at. And then from there, it then gives them a pathway going forward. Just to give you an idea of how quickly things have changed in the last 6 months, almost everyone 6 months ago was coming through these different assessments into our platform. And we have now coming up to 6 million students that have come through this pathway. However, there is more and more of our students that are now coming via our avatars. So for example, we have a site called student.ai where we have all these university students, over 1,000 a day, that are actually not looking for what's the next course I want to run. They're actually saying, where can I get AI support for my thesis? Or where can I get AI support for my research? They'll come on that platform. It will give them an entire team of AIs that will support them for free. And then from there, they're like, wow, okay, this is really valuable. I want to go on the next AI micro school that GNSU is running. I want to go into the AI membership that GNSU is running. And we have the same for entrepreneurs, where we have something called Genius Team, which is basically the avatars from Albert Einstein through to Nikola Tesla that you can actually have join your C-suite as well. Many people are doing that and then going forward. That's the whole high-tech side. And without taking too much more time, I'll go through what is the high-touch side. We now have 35,000 partners around the world. And these partners, they're using our platform for their own courses, their own programs, plugging into our assessment tools and our AI avatars for their own businesses. These are consultants, these are trainers. They may be one of our partners, let's say, for example, OpenEXO, that is currently running a lot of the exponential organization models into the largest Fortune 100 companies in the world. And basically, they are basically using our platform to be able to find a business and then to deliver on that business as well. And then we also have entrepreneur educators. So for example, Property Investors Network that teaches property investors in the UK how to go about investing in the property market today. They use our platform to be able to deliver their programs, effectively like an Amazon for education. And then basically, and so they might have, we have a lot of students who won't find us just by Googling. They'll actually be at one of these weekly meetups, or they'll be meeting up with one of their mentors who will then bring them onto our platform and then guide them through that pathway as well. And we're seeing many teachers, faculty partners that we have delivering on that. And the final piece that I will share, which is kind of where we got started, was the fact that while this has been how we have been developing things, with now the advent of AI becoming more and more a city-focused thing, next week, for example, we're going to be in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, partnering with the Abu Dhabi University, where we are running a workshop for CEOs. This is in person, where people will show up. They'll be taking a quiz, which is called our AI Ready Assessment, to see how much they are set up or not for what's happening with AI right now. And then that then leads them into a full pathway of programs they can then take for themselves and for their leaders, which also all are delivered on our platform as well.
Wow, that's quite a bit of content, and it's almost as if that much or that variety of product offer to quickly distill that into sort of what you do would actually be something that you might use AI for. So that's
usually this is the biggest use case I personally believe when it comes to AI. It's not really about productivity at the company level, especially if that means that people lose their jobs as a result of it, but it's
right.
actually
Yeah,
productivity
scary.
at the company level, right? And the biggest issue always in education is how can you scale this in a way that's personalized? I'm sure you've had, as any listener here, had the experience of a really great mentor or a really great teacher, and they've it was those questions that person asked me about myself and where I was heading that really got me thinking about a new pathway going forward. How do you scale that? I mean, you can scale content by being a best-selling author or being, a podcaster on YouTube, and you can get to millions of people, but that doesn't give you a two-way conversation where you can actually guide someone far more personally in their own particular area. Even a teacher with 30 kids or 40 kids in their class, at some point, there's only so much time they can give to every one of those students. But the moment you have AI, and AI can then personalize far more effectively, this is really the power of where I believe more and more people are going to be using AI going forward. One of the first use cases for sure, it's already happening with AI, it's going to happen with robots as well, is going to be basically in education.
Yes. Yeah. I think that, I mean, you talk about the high touch. For instance, I'm based here in New York City, where we have incredibly high touch because the Board of Education is very powerful. Is that something that for Genius Group, where you have an ability to sell into, whatever it be, high schools, colleges, whatever, or is it that we should think about that you're competing with them through the sort of Genius U product?
It's a great question, and it's definitely much more of a collaboration than a competition. So if I was to give an example, what we're doing right now with Abu Dhabi University, they have 8,000 students. They are the leading university in UAE. So that covers Abu Dhabi, it covers Dubai. They have a number of different campuses, including on the Internet City, where there's 2,000 companies or technology companies there. So, if you look at any of the top leading AI companies, whether it's NVIDIA or Microsoft or Google,
Sure.
they're all looking to get a foothold, definitely within the Middle East. There's huge amounts of money. There's a $100 billion fund that was set up by UAE. They've already said that every single ministry has got to have an AI officer. It's one of the first countries with a minister of AI. And so they're putting a huge amount of time, effort, and money behind it. But the challenge is the companies that are trying to educate you on all of this, they're technology companies, right? Like you can do a NVIDIA certification or you can do a Google certification, but most of them are online certifications that you can take without them actually providing certified trainers to guide you, unless you happen to be one of their corporate clients. So what we're doing together with Abu Dhabi University is we're creating AI hubs where we effectively are the ones running the hubs. And it's a combination of degree programs and certifications, as you'd expect. So they've already got partnerships with the likes of Stanford, Wharton. So if someone wants to go and run one of those programs, they can, and we can offer those programs effectively as a partner. However, most students don't come saying, look, I want to learn AI and I want to learn AI from Stanford. That's not what's happening right now. They're saying, look, if I'm going to learn a skill set like AI, I want to learn it from Google or from Microsoft. I want to get a certification that gets recognized. So it's a vocational certification. So we provide both. We are running the vocational certifications alongside the higher ed certifications as well. And what we're providing is two aspects to it. The platform, which allows you to have the actual AI avatars and tools, and the community, right? And that community is where we actually are running these programs live. You're connecting with others as well. You're able to join the AI talent marketplace off the back of this as well. And we're doing something which first started in Singapore last year. And it was actually Google that launched this program called Trailblazers, where they said, if we can run a sprint, basically a 3-month program, 100 use cases of AI within 100 days, then we can really kickstart an ecosystem here. Because we're working together with Salim Ismail, one of our directors, who was the founding CEO of Singularity University with Peter Diamandis. This was at the time
Sure.
10, 15 years ago, where they were like, hey, there's going to be a time when AGI is going to happen, the singularity is going to occur. We better be ready for that. And that's going to require a different way for us to educate ourselves about exponential growth. And this is exactly what we're seeing in the world today is really needed. So you might have someone who is a reskilled employee saying, okay, I want to go and basically get some new AI skills. They'll come to the AI hub, they'll make their choice of which programs they're going to run, and then they'll deliver on it. Or it could be a CEO or a startup or someone like yourself who go, look, if there's an AI challenge that's launching, and we have one launching globally in September, and I can join that AI challenge, which over 3 months is going to give me, in the background, I can do it while I'm running my business, but it's going to give me a use case of how I can plug AI into a particular area of my business and 10x that part. Maybe I'm going to 10x my sales. Maybe I'm going to 10x my customer service efficiency, but I'm going to choose something. I'm going to then hook into the right AI talent, the right AI tools, and the right AI training to then go through this. And at the end of it all, I'm up for the Genius Awards, where if I'm one of the best cases that come out of it, Genius is going to be writing about me. We're going to have the videos. We're going to have the awards ceremony we're going to be running. And then that becomes use cases for our Genius cities all over the world. We've got London, we've got Miami, we've got Abu Dhabi, Dubai, we've got Singapore, where all the best talent, as well as all of the top tech companies, are involved with us on launching this and growing it out. And I think that's what's really exciting about the future. You don't have to try and figure this out on your own. And you don't have to then decide, am I going to use Microsoft, Google, or some other platform? You're actually part of a community where whatever happens to be the best examples and the best case studies, you can be drawing off those globally.
Yes, I think that's it's just so broad, and you can see that I am not an AI person as I'm taking notes with this very, very analog device here, but it's just so broad and exciting that it's just a matter of convincing people, and obviously I'm a stock analyst, so investors, that what you have is value creative in terms of returns on capital and what have you. So I don't like to go through the investor decks on these podcasts because it's like, pulling teeth. But in yours, from memory, I will say slide 7 is very interesting because it goes through your spend on marketing and your ROI. So can you just give us a quick, again, 10,000 foot view of when you and the board are deciding we want to deploy capital this way, how that becomes return on capital?
Sure. I think coming back to this concept of exponential growth, I think this is one of the biggest lessons at Singularity University is that we totally underestimate what happens when you double something up year after year, and what you get in a very short period of time, right? We've obviously been seeing this with companies like NVIDIA becoming now the most valuable company in the world. It's happening in such a short period of time. And when these things happen, they constantly take us by surprise. Even if you go back in time and see that these AI companies that are riding this wave, they've been predicting this is what's going to happen. So the things I want to share with you are things that we were already predicting, and they're happening to us as well. Anyone who looks back at our revenues over the last 3 years will see that on a pro forma basis, given that we're doing acquisitions as well, we went from $8 million to 18 million to 17 million within 3 years. We've 10x'd within the 3-year period.
Right.
And we expect to 10x again in a similar period going forward as well. And we can say that now, but if in 3 years' time, when people see that we've gone from the 100 million to the $1 billion mark, they might still look back and get surprised by that, right? It's not surprising to us because the actual entire market is actually growing at that 10x speed. And the market for education is a $10 trillion market. There is no one company that at the moment has got 10% of that market, but we believe there will be, and that will be a $1 trillion business. So in the same way, in the early days of Elon Musk talking about driverless cars, he predicted the size of the market and said that whoever is the one that basically figures out a way to be driverless and also to be solar powered, linked to basically the idea of being electric. If that's possible, then of course, you take a small percentage of the market, you've got a multi-trillion-dollar business, and we've obviously seen what's happened with Tesla. 100%, there will be an AI-driven education company which will be a $1 trillion business, and the question is which one will be the one that will be there. So, given that we've had this growth rate that will, our guidance this year is over 100 million. Again, when we listed the company, we were at less than 10% of that, and we've achieved that in 3 years. While that's happened, and while we continue to see this growth rate, we keep everything down to very simple metrics. And your question, which was, how do we think of this from the point of view of all these different partners coming in and all of these different students coming in, is we say, look, if there is a way that we can be bringing new students on board for less than $1 per student, and if we can have a way to, through our engagement, virality, and the repeat, customers coming back again and again, get to $10 per year in revenues, we're getting a 10x, and we're not having to pay that dollar again the second year, but we still get that $10 the second year as well. And how many years can we continue that on for? We're now 7 years into this experiment, and our numbers are getting better and better each time. While we have on our numbers, showing that we're under 70 cents per student acquisition cost and over $10 per student in terms of in how much they're generating. On top of that, that's accelerating. So that, for example, now with our AI avatars, we're having students joining at under 40 cents per acquisition cost. So it keeps on accelerating and growing. And as long as we keep watching that, then someone should be able to look and say, does that mean that this year, when you have $100 million revenue, you should be at 10 million students? And it's like, absolutely, that's our target for this year. And then at the same time, when we have our goal of 100 million students, does that mean that should be generating $1 billion in revenues? And we go, absolutely. As we keep as management this, then we will continue to see that multiply.
It's interesting also for me. I do, as my listeners know, I do work in a lot of different countries. I go to Brazil very frequently. I'm going tomorrow. And so one of your sort of comparables is Duolingo, which is interesting to me because, sorry, this is a digression, but in a terribly unsuccessful attempt to force feed myself Portuguese, I started doing Duolingo every day and stopped on the third time that it taught me the phrase "O gato lê o jornal," which means the cat reads the newspaper. Cats can't read. So I'm just wondering, as an AI company, if you have that sort of use issue where somebody says, look, you're teaching me the wrong thing. I don't want to learn this. Please make it better. How do human beings at Genius tweak that?
So two things. The first one is the comparable that we make against Duolingo compared to the likes of Coursera or Udemy, which are marketplaces providing other people's content, is that Duolingo is the one company out of those three that's $1 billion business and is profitable. And the reason for that is because they generate most of their own content instead of basically just taking a small cut of other people's content. So from that point of view, we're similar to Duolingo in that most of our revenues are coming from our own programs. That's how we're able to predict a positive EBITDA this year, while we're still maintaining 50% plus growth, which is a lot higher than the 30% Duolingo growth, right? And if you compare that to the likes of Coursera and Udemy, they're projecting 10 to 12% growth, right? So for sure, having your own content, if it's what people want, you have an ability to be able to scale far more profitably and really focus more at the marketing side and at the value of the product. Where we are not like Duolingo is not an AI company. They may use AI from the point of view of when they're marketing on Google or on Facebook or in other areas where they're piggybacking on that. Yeah, but when you're doing your questions and translations on Duolingo, there is no AI that's giving you those questions, right? Those all are human created, where they hard coded ahead of time. And in the same way, by the way, just so you know, right? Like when you're hearing about cats reading newspapers, I happen to be learning Polish because I'm right now in Warsaw, and the kind of questions we're getting, which we were looking to translate, is why is your husband in jail? I mean, like those were, and you're thinking, okay, wait, there's something here in the culture that the kind of things that you're being asked are things you'll never ever. I'm not going to have a husband, and I hope if I did, they would not be in jail. So why am I learning these things right now? Now, where I think that companies like Duolingo, which largely is like a lot of other ed tech companies, are going to have a challenge. And even recently they've had a hit in their valuation, even though they're still at 12 times multiple in revenues. But the challenge is, in the same way that a year ago when OpenAI came out, Chegg, another ed tech company, had a big hit because they were helping people do their homework, and the AI was replacing that and doing a better job than coming to Chegg. You can now learn languages way easier using OpenAI or using, one of the chatbots. Even on our platform, we have got our own AI avatar that you can have conversations with back and forth in any language. And there's no question that unless Duolingo very quickly pivots to that, you'll be learning Portuguese from an avatar tutor that you can have a conversation with back and forth, get the tonality, the inflections, get the right pronunciations, talk about the things you're actually interested in. And if you happen to be basically meeting up with someone in Portuguese, you would have your AI avatar right next to you. So you'd be learning in real time as you're actually having the conversation, right? Wow. Duolingo doesn't do any of those things right now. They're going to have to, or else they're going to be out of business.
Yeah, I think that's it's just amazing the pace of change and the so my background, as I said, is as an equity analyst. So I always try to pin down management teams on the numbers, but your guidance from memory is going from about 70 million in revenues last year to 105 this year.
That's correct.
Users 5.5 million to over 10, with positive EBITDA of 6 million. So I'm just, as we are very close to mid-year, are those numbers still valid?
Yes, they are valid. We're not changing where we are right now, but we are experiencing the same kind of phenomenon that those that are right in this AI wave are experiencing, which is that whatever numbers we're putting down 6 months later, we're finding that we're underestimating where things really are. So we absolutely are in a position at the moment where we are not limited by our mission. We're not limited by our market. It's all just down to execution. And at the moment, because we have an execution model, which is largely based on our partnerships, which means that while we have got our Genius City model, which I mentioned, where again, the Genius City model is also a multiplier. We see each Genius City generating over $100 million of value a year and over $10 million in revenue directly to Genius Group. And so we have a goal of 100 Genius Cities, which at $10 million each obviously hits our $1 billion number as well. And so our focus at how we get to that 100 million students, 100 cities, and $1 billion number, these are very tangible numbers where the question is not will we do it, the question is when, right? Will it be 2030? Will it be 2027? When we first set that target, by the way, that was inspired by one of our educators, someone called Salman Khan. Any kids that have got any students that have got or adults that have got kids at in maths classes at school will know about Khan Academy. And Salman Khan, we had him on our summit where he was sharing how he set this target and achieved this target of 100 million students within 10 years. And we said, well, if he can do that with Khan Academy for primary and secondary students, we can certainly do it for students of all ages. So we also set the 10-year target, and that was 5 years ago. So that's why we say we're still on track for that, 100 million students, $1 billion revenue by 2030. But as I mentioned earlier, we're actually seeing that things are accelerating much faster than expected. And so as a result of that, that means that we also are accelerating our progress as well.
And in terms of what you use, again, as someone who's not technologically adept at all, in your back-end systems, is there anything that you are seeing that could be revolutionary there? Could save you 50% on gross margins, or could make your delivery times 50% faster? I mean, just anything with AI has these incredibly multiplicative numbers. So I'm just wondering, from Genius Group as an entity, is that something that we would see where generally that would lead to profitability more quickly than forecast?
Yeah, great question. And the answer is we are teaching individuals, including entrepreneurs that have startups and including CEOs of large corporations, how to get exponential growth. Best way to think about exponential growth is, instead of thinking, how do I get an extra 10%, you're thinking, how do I 10x, which is obviously 1,000%. How do I get 1,000% difference in something? And of course, you can't do that by just going out there and hiring 10 times more people or adding 10 times more resources at the same level without a huge amount of complexity and investment. However, using AI, you can do that across multiple fields now, right? You can take any department within a company, whether it's the HR department, the sales, the marketing, the product development side, and there are ways to 10x certain metrics within any one of those using AI. And there's use cases and studies already that have actually achieved this. So we are collecting use cases around the world, including the ones that we're delivering on ourselves, where we're going in and delivering 3-month sprints. This is where we come up the Global AI Challenge, which is a 3-month sprint, where everyone who basically starts that sprint, they're starting with a very simple audit of their company, where they can see which area of the company could AI in its current form, because it's changing so quickly. Can the apps that are available, can the applications that we can already apply, could I actually get the best bang for the buck in my business where I can actually make that change? And then basically over the 3 months, collect the right talent, because we have a talent pool that's global, collect the right tools, because we have got already awards being given out and rankings being given out for the best AI applications around the world. And that includes throughout Asia, not just the ones that you see in America, which is largely the ones you see in social media and media in America, but the ones in China. And so you're getting the very best from around the world. Those companies also are getting the piggyback of our platform to be able to get their tools out around the world much faster by basically working with us as well. And then basically from there, within 3 months, we have all these use cases, but we also have all of these companies that have actually got a very measurable ROI on their investment. And that's very valuable, right? So, for example, there was a program that was done recently with our partners EXO for Procter & Gamble, right? And in that, focus there, they were looking on what they were paying for a sprint, which was $500,000. And they actually found ways that I could generate over $1 million with that 3-month sprint, right? So that's a big move. Frankly, where you're getting the right resources from to develop as well. Are you using AIs? Are you going to go out and hire more people? Are you going to basically have consultants that are expensive to come in and analyze what's happening, or can AI really do that far faster, right? So the reason I'm sharing all of that is that's our expertise. And so, of course, we're doing that with our own company as well. So we're looking at all the different areas of our company, and the projections that we've given are projections based on what we already know we can achieve based on current technology. But we also know within 3 months, 6 months, AI would have accelerated a lot further during this time as well. And so we will find all sorts of new ways that we can be even more innovative in terms of how we're scaling and the speed of scale, alongside what our cost base is and how we're resourcing as well. And I think we're going to see many, many, many examples at which we're going to be applying ourselves in our business as well, to what companies of the future look like. $billion companies, very different from the companies that we're used to from the industrial age.
Do you think that it gives you an advantage versus, I always make these sort of trite comments, like we're recording this on Google Meet, for instance. I use YouTube to post the videos, and I always say things like, "Oh, I would never compete with Google; they'll squash me like a bug," which actually is true. But do you think that Genius? Do you see that on a day-to-day basis, that because you're smaller and I'm assuming much more nimble, that you're beating these companies to the punch? I'm just wondering if you have an example of that on a day-to-day business case basis, going up against the tech giants.
Absolutely. So I think what's very, very important as a distinction, which I do believe that more and more people are now becoming aware of, is that the model that worked very, very well through the information age, right? Which basically, in the same way that in the industrial age, there was no question that first mover advantage into a particular industry, and then ensuring that within that industry, you were getting a foothold with the right barriers to entry to be able to build. Like, there was no question that led to the biggest industrial giants that we know from the industrial age. None of them are in the top 10 most valuable companies in the world anymore. They're not there, right? The ones that we're seeing close, are the ones that were able to understand that as long as you could find a way to own the data, right? Like, so Google does this, Microsoft does this. You can find a way to own the data in such a way that people would want to stay with your platform, come to you because you were faster than others, which is obviously what Google's done, come to you because you had more choice than others, which is obviously what YouTube's done. If you can do that, then you have the ability then to be able to scale at a level way beyond, through the network effect, what others can do. That's the information age. But there's a challenge with that as well. And the challenge with that is in the AI age, this is where it's not about a one-size-fits-all in the way that everyone goes to the same Google homepage or everyone goes, to the same Amazon storefront. No,
Sure.
this is now at a point where we've seen that if you try and create an AI that is all things to all people, then it's going to always fall over in its biases. We've seen this happen with Google at scale. We suddenly have Black George Washingtons, and they're trying to figure like what's politically correct. What we're doing differently is we're basically creating a front end with education on the front, saying that we cannot predict and no one can predict what is going to be the best image generator 3 years from now, what is going to be the best chatbot 3 years from now, what is going to be the best AI analytics for your internal data 3 years from now. But what we can say is that if you go and put your bet on Google or Microsoft or Oracle, you're going to be wrong, right? Because it's most likely not going to be one of those big companies building LLMs. It's going to be something that's happening at a local level, at a local scale. And the most important thing for you to hold on to is, first of all, your own awareness and understanding of what's happening locally together with your own data. So as an example, on our student AI system, we have localized that in UAE, for example, where Abu Dhabi and Dubai is, so that they want to make sure, look, the local customs are reflected, right? We're working with one of the big schools there in the district, as we are with the university, as I mentioned. They want to know that basically it's going to be customized and localized in a way that the university is going to be able to keep data which is going to be useful for itself and its tutors. They want to have assistance for each of their faculty members, which is going to be, they can't just go straight to Google or Amazon or OpenAI and try and collect that information from them. They want to have it local, right? And they want to have it linked also to the best tools that are available. So for example, we have an image generator on our platform where you can choose, do I want to use DALL-E 3? Do I want to use Midjourney? As new ones show up, because there's every possibility that within a year or two, it's not going to be those. Sora is a good example. Sora came out as a video generator, and there's already a whole series that are way better than Sora that's come out in the 3 or 4 months since. So if you put all your bets and put all your data into one of these tech platforms, knowing it's going to get superseded, then you've already lost the game. But if you're with someone localized, which is what we've designed, where we're basically saying keep your content and data close, be connected to whatever is the best platform out there, will be the interface that enables you to do that, and then be able to bring the right tools and the right talent together. And if the talent changes, if the tools change, that's no problem. We'll recommend where to change it to. You can then choose where to then move your data to as well. And we effectively become the front end. So this is not a world of LLMs, whereas large language models, this is TLMs, which is tiny language models. This is something which is down to the level of the individual. And that's something which at the moment, the large companies, because they're in such a race against each other, they're in a position to be able to create this localized interface that we're developing. So we already are ahead of them in these areas here. However, we're partnering with them. So we're not trying to beat Microsoft. We'll work with them, and we'll share revenues with them as well as we go forward. We'll teach the things that they're doing, but guaranteed within 5 years, the most popular AI that's out there is something most likely that hasn't been actually even invented yet. And as long as we're basically the ones that are providing that and sharing that with others, then we're basically always going to have a very important part to play, where education is at the core of this.
Yep, I think that's it's just such an incredibly broad topic. And I'm just wondering if ever, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but is there, do you sort of have safeguards in place that, AI couldn't take your job, for instance? I'm sorry if that's a stupid question, but it's the kind of thing I hear almost every day from people. It's sort of like coffee conversations.
Absolutely. I think this is one of the biggest concerns that people have, and I think that this really goes down to the core of what we're doing at GNS, right? And I'm glad you brought it up, because this is, I think, a really important thing to share. Most investors, most analysts, and even podcasters that we speak with, because they want to be able to draw out in a company, what are the real numbers, what's the return on investment? Obviously, these are things we tend to focus at. However, there are more and more companies out there right now that realize we are about to move into a change which is bigger than what happened when we went from horses to cars. Now, at that point, like over 100 years ago, when we went from horses to cars, if someone came to you and you'd never seen a car before, or you'd heard about this idea of an automobile, but everyone is still riding horses, and you said, you're going to have not 1 horsepower, but you're going to be able to have 1,000 horsepower, that you're going to be sitting on. People
Right.
can conceive, what does that even mean, right? Like, what is 1,000 horsepower? When you see a car and go, oh wait, I get it. It's not even a horse, right? And it also has an engine, and it also has wheels, and I got to get a license to even drive one of these things, and I need cars, and I need to have traffic lights. When you realize there's a whole infrastructure based around it, but also a whole way of thinking about it, you realize, gosh, like what's happening today is people are knowing there's something called AI. They might not have driven it or seen it, like they might have seen the demonstration of it, but they're still running their business or having their job at a bit like a horse, right? And they're thinking, how do I put wheels on my horse, or how do I put an engine in my horse? The answer is you don't. So does that mean a job itself will be different in the future? We've redefined what it is. When we talk about what's your passions, what's your purpose, is we've redefined, and we do this with companies, we're doing this with individuals, what it is to have work. And I think this is very important because we're having a lot of conversation about, if robots take our jobs, if AI takes our job, we're going to be out of work, right? And what does that mean for our meaning in life? And that's thinking about the industrial age concept that work is paid productivity, and you do it your whole life and then you retire. And if you don't have that, then what's your identity? However, what we're already seeing more and more are those that are embracing AI and the understanding of it, or those already who've got prosperity. They may already be multimillionaires. They think of work very, very differently. It's not what they get paid for. In fact, they're already getting paid enough money with that. I'm sure there's many investors listening to this who go, that's true. My work isn't basically what I'm getting paid for. I make more money from my investments. So we've divided work up into the same three aspects that existed during the Renaissance, which is really the last rebirth, which goes way back before even cars, and it's when ships really were basically allowing us to be international. And those three different elements is what is your paid work, which may be nothing in the future. It may be that you don't enjoy doing the paid work so much, or it may be that you only need 1 day a week doing the paid work, and AI will help you do that a whole lot less. So there's the paid work, which is what do you get? There's your community work, or what do you give? Right? It might be philanthropy. It might be helping your kids at school. It might be playing a musical instrument in a band, but it's something where you're giving without expecting to get paid for it. The payment is in the actual work itself, right? So this is not your day's work. This is your life's work, right? Like do if you didn't have to get paid for it. And of course, the more that AI and productivity can actually enable you to be able to have your money that you need, et cetera, then you can spend more time on the things that are meaningful, right? Which is most likely going to be what you're giving, not what you're getting. And the third aspect, which we're seeing many, many more people do, in fact, most education on TikTok, YouTube, social media is on this third type, which is your personal work, which is about how you're growing. Maybe it's your health, maybe it's your relationships, maybe it's some aspect of your life, skill sets, right? Maybe you're learning about cryptocurrencies or about investing because you enjoy it, not just because you're trying to make money out of it. And that third aspect there, which is really about the growing, that's a different type of work as well. And what we're going to see, I think, more and more is as people understand, even companies, yes, we can be making profit and we can be growing, but if we actually are thinking about the people that we're coming across, whether it's our investors, whether it's our employees, whether it's our customers, that we're thinking, absolutely, what is it that they're giving? What is it that, how they're growing? How can we serve them to do those jobs better so that we're more meaningful? I mean, we know Apple has built their brand around this, as have other, trillion-dollar businesses, where it's like, we can help you be a better human. And that's a big part of what Genius is all about, right? Like this whole concept, everyone's born a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll go for its whole life believing it's stupid, right? A standardized test to get a job. That's all going to disappear because people are going to redefine what a job is in the first place. And I think that is something that will happen with or without me and you. It's going to happen anyway. But for us to be at the forefront of that and to be there, being able to guide us through what is a massive transition for humanity itself, that's the reason I'm doing this, right? And the fact that we can all become billionaires off the back of it, that's almost like the side effect of what we're really doing, which is the impact we're having versus the income we're making.
Okay. And this is, it's a very broad conversation. I have a lot to follow up on, but in terms of listeners and viewers, what is the best place for them to go, Roger, to get information on Genius and what you're doing?
Yep, it's definitely, if they're an investor, to go to geniusgroup.net, which is now getting upgraded to geniusgroup.ai, which will also take you to the same place right now, where you'll be able to see all the companies that we're involved in and the way that we're actually scaling and all of our investor information. And if they want to be one of our customers already coming in and using our tools, they can go straight to geniusu.com and they'll see that there's already pathways for students, for investors, for entrepreneurs, where we're attracting thousands of people a day who are coming for the first time and joining our Genius movement.
Okay, so the best sort of landing spot for that is geniusu.com. That's
Exactly. That's right.
okay. Well, I am going to go try to find a cat that can read a newspaper, and I've been failing at that for many years. But thank you very much, Roger. Thank you for your time and being so generous.
Thanks so
And
much.
best of luck. I think it's an amazing idea.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Jim.